Hi friends, I'm back. Now, I'm going to be talking about something that I see a lot in my YouTube comments, and that is how to gear a unit for PvP. Okay? And when I saw PvP, that tickled my fancy because I am a guy that likes to play a game for PvP. Alright? To me, there is no reason to play a gear grinder game if I'm not going to be competing with anyone. Okay? That's why I can't play HSR, that's why I can't play Wuwa, I can't play all that kind of stuff. Alright? So, now, how do I think about it? Now, I'm not your dad, I'm not your papi, okay? But I can give you what I do, and you can use it as a framework, and hopefully that helps you, okay? So, first thing I want you guys to do is go into your archive and look at the units. Step 1 is 100% learn the unit. Understand what the unit wants to do, okay? Because if you don't understand what XD wants you to do with that unit, then you can't cook, okay? When you see people have this special build, alright, it's because they understand what this unit does, but they want to use it in a different way so that people cannot catch on to what they're trying to do, right? And that's what I tend to do a lot, alright? I'll look at a unit and I'll be like, alright, so that's what they want me to do. And then I'll do something different. Maybe it's still within that parameters, but my build is now cheeky, right? Let's look back at the beta, alright? How I played the beta PvP. What I did was, I knew that we only had about 14 days to play the game. Actually about 11. RTA was going to end in 10 days. I don't have time to farm immunity gear. Alright? So, I looked at the unit called Helkit over here, which gives you Shroud Barrier, which grants you immunity. Right? How was I cheating immunity? Through Helkit. Okay? Because I could use him as a damage dealer while supporting the team as well by not getting CC. Okay? Do you have to use Helkit? No. Alright? It's very evident now that everyone is now using Kachi the Guard for immunity and defense up. Okay? I didn't use Kachi the Guard because, let's be real here, I had an SSR, I was going to look at the SSRs first before I even delve into the SRs, okay? But now that the game is fully launched, everyone has time to cook, everyone has time to look at, all the other units except the SSRs, besides the SSRs, my bad. And now they're cooking, okay? So, first things first, understand what the unit wants to do, okay? So let's go back to Helkit here, alright? Let's look at his skills here. We all know what his S3 does. It's basically an AoE shield for your team, which puts up immunity for you through Shroud Barrier. In his S2, he's basically going to reinforce his barrier and put attack down. And what does that mean? That means you're going to hit a lot weaker, not breaking his shield, and he gets to, keep his Shroud Barrier, right? And his Shroud Barrier is 3 turns, and you can see that this is 4 turns, alright? So it's basically by the time his Shroud Barrier ends, he can reapply it with his S3. That is what he wants to do, okay? And his S1 is basically a stun, because if you ain't touching him, you ain't breaking his barrier, agree? And basically they made it in a way where if you try to touch him, and you don't break his shield, and he attacks you, you're getting stunned as a punishment, okay? So, now that we understand how Helkit works, what can you do with Helkit? Well, what I did was I made him Omega fast. Everyone was using, Marvels, they were using Lilies, they were using Tsukiyomis as their pusher. I, on the other hand, decided to go down the route of I'm going to use Helkit as my fastest unit, and then pick, other fast units as band bait, and he gets through, I get to put up the Shroud Barrier. Now your Marvel does squat, every other unit that CCs me does fuck all, okay? That was how I was using Helkit, alright? Now, full launch is here, am I going to do the same thing? Probably not. Maybe I have a different idea, and that's where, you can now start cooking what you want to do with him. So a lot of people will go, oh, okay, so he puts up Shroud Barrier, that means, we need to make sure that he is safe from CC and therefore if he is safe from CC, he gets to put up the shroud barrier, which then extends his immunity. Valid point. 100% valid. Go for it. Run him on speed immunity. That's how everyone's going to run him, right? But now I'm going to offer you what, you can do with Helkit instead, alright? What if I don't want to do that? What if I want to use Helkit as like, a semi-fast unit, okay? That is not actually threatening first turn 1, but he is there as a, a threat already to many, because he's going to put up the immunity barrier. When that goes up, it's going to be hard for you to break through and, try to CC your opponent. What if you use him as a unit where he sits there, relatively fast, puts up the shroud barrier, okay? He's relatively tanky, because you're going to build him a little bit tanky, and you're not going to go all into his attack, like what it said here on his S3, and you're going to counter-attack when they try to break your shield. That synergizes with his S1, doesn't it? If they try to break your shield, there is a chance they're risking it, they're going into the casino, they're trying to gamble, whether they're gonna get stunned or not. That is an idea. Okay? And so, when you start playing with, your units like that, then you can start drafting in a very, very different way, I want to say. In a special way. Abnormal is what we call it. Alright? So let's take another unit for example here. Okay? Let's take Leanne, because no one built Leanne anymore. And I'm trolling you guys on purpose to teach you guys a lesson. So, Leanne. Now, what does Leanne want to do? Basically, Leanne's S3 steals turn meter, which then pushes her turn meter forward so that she can do S2. Right? We all know what Leanne does already. I don't have to go through her skills. And her S1 is basically a lifesteal in this game, because we don't have a lifesteal set. Alright? And then if you read what her little passive does, is each type of buff Leanne has, the damage increases by 6% up to 5 stacks. So if you give her 5 buffs, she is going to get an extra 30% damage on her skills. Okay? Early game, perfect. You are going to need all the attack buffs and everything to get through content anyway. This Leanne just helps you push your agenda forward. Alright? Now, what if you want to use her in RTA? Which you guys can't, because you guys reset her and not listen to me. So, how would you build her? Now, I have built her to abuse her S1. Alright? Because in a draft, I want to play her in a standard draft. That means I need her to be as selfish as possible. Okay? And what I mean by that is that I need her to be self-sustaining. So what did I do? I built her on Bramble. Okay? Why did I build her on Bramble? It's because she heals herself. If you touch her, there is a chance that she's going to heal herself and nullify your damage. Okay? So, how am I doing that? Basically, now we can start talking about how to gear your units properly. Alright? Now that we know what the unit wants to do, what you can do here is you can start going into your shelves. Okay? Because like I said in my video before, there are 2 ways you can build a unit. The first way you want to build your unit is you want to look at the shelf that complements your unit, your animus. Or the second way is you want to just build the set on your animus and then find the supplementing shell to, finish your matrix modules. Okay? So I'm going to go down the first route here. Alright, this is how I think. Now, I'm going to look through all the mythic stuff because I'm not going to look through any of this else. Alright, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 16 different shells here that I can go through. Alright? And if you go through them one by one, you can see what matrices available for them. Like for example, you are looking at Supernova here. You already read the skills here. It says healing. Maybe. But no. Alright? That's too much. Alright? That's too much cooking. Alright? You put too much oil in your food. Let's go Law of Silence. Law of Silence has DPS sets in here with some obscure Bramble sets, Time Weave sets, and Ether Plague sets. That's interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. Alright? Golden Lion. What does Golden Lion do? Alright, for every 2 times an owner uses skill 1, increases the owner's final damage by 5% and accuracy. Okay. So that works with Bramble. That procs Golden Lion. Good to know. Assist also helps. Good to know. Alicorn. Okay, this is the Dispel. This helps you purify pesky debuffs. Cool. Quite usable. And you keep doing this over and over and over again until you find one you like. Like, a lot of people will stick onto your Codex of Magic. A lot of them will go here because you get to use your S3 twice. Or any skill for that matter. Your first usage, free of charge. That's what Codex of Magic does. Okay? But what I want to do is I want to think about the scenario where I'm going to be drafting Leanne. If I'm going to be drafting Leanne in a standard draft, what do I have to do to make sure that she doesn't die? Because I have to build damage onto her. I can't bulk onto her because that would sacrifice her damage. So I need her to stay alive somehow. How do I do that? Well, as we have gone through, I am going to go through with Law of Silence. And why is that? Because if you read here, at the start of battle, puts the Elder Animus in a 1-turn void state. And what does void does? Increases your effect resistance by 60%, and you cannot be selected as the main target, right? And if they AoE, the damage is reduced by 50%. So you are basically tanky now, alright? And you're also resistant to, CC, in a sense, okay? So, this is how I'm going to, avoid getting nuked before my Leanne can do anything, because I want her to at least S3 and S2 before she can kick the bucket, okay? And I'm trying to mitigate that as much as I can, alright, after doing S3 and S2, by putting in, Bramble set to lifesteal back so that she can survive longer, okay? And dish out more damage. So I'm trying to get as much mileage as I can from Leanne, alright? And so, this is what I have on her, right? Bramble set. So let's take a look at how I built my Leanne here, okay? Let's go into Leanne. This is my Leanne. I have her on Keen Eye Bramble, alright? And because I don't have Fury Edge, I'm just using whatever to fill the slot because I already have the 12 Keen Eye and I already have the 8 Bramble on this, alright, as you can see from my shell. Okay? So this is how I've built her, alright? I got her to move relatively fast because if you can't CC her and she gets a turn, then she gets to steal their turn and move again. Okay? And because of that, she also gets the turn cycle a little bit better because after 4 turns, right, I get to go back into Void. Alright? And every time I go back into Void, my attack increases by 5%. Alright? So that is how I have built Leanne. And that is why she is built the way she is. And it's for that very reason. Okay? Now, there is a lot more that I can go into, but I won't, go too deep into the theory crafting. And if you want to do all these theory crafting, come hang out with me in Discord. I'm happy to do it there. Alright? But you can see I've already yapped on for 13 minutes. I don't want to yap on anymore. But that's the video. Hopefully this framework helps you think about how you're supposed to build units, how you're supposed to gear your units, and all that good stuff. But that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.